And now a story of opportunity and what some make of it. Before the Olympics last summer, we traveled to Kenya on the east coast of Africa, where we met a group of gifted athletes who all come from one area and tribe. They're called the Kalenjin, and scientists are studying why members of this tribe have developed into some of the best long-distance runners in the world. But we also found another story in Kenya, one of remarkable achievement against unimaginable odds. This is a story about a special group of high school students who are also talented in the classroom and dreaming of coming to America. Kenya is truly a land of enchantment. There are fantastic vistas in every direction. Wildlife that has long made the country an explorer's paradise. But while the landscape is abundant, the people of Kenya are for the most part desperately poor. The average income here is less than $1,000 a year. Outside the major cities, the majority of Kenyans are farmers.
Okay, so I want to take you to the farm.
And it was on a farm that we met 21-year-old Gilbert Kip-Korir.
I go to the dairy and milk every morning. Yeah. So this is, at least this is one source of the income to our family, and source of food. This milk is very important.
Gilbert lives on this small farm with his mother, his father, and many siblings.
This is Joy. Joy is our last born. Then we have Mom, Sarah. She's my mom. This is Faith. Faith Cheruta. She comes after me. She's my sister. We have Japhet. Japhet is our second last born. We have Michael.
Until recently, Gilbert's family had no electricity, and their meals are still cooked in a wood-burning oven.
This is the fireplace that you use wood to burn and, cook.
They also don't have indoor plumbing. Their drinking water comes from a nearby well. And even though this scene may look meager to our Western eyes, by Kenyan standards, Gilbert and his family would be considered middle class.
Okay, so we are going to my room. That is where I stay. It's so small, and I like it here. This is where I've always, when I have assignments to work on, I use this small table. This is what I use, my study table. Have a small chair, then we have clothes all over.
In his tiny bedroom, Gilbert has one possession he especially treasures.
I have a small radio.
It was on this radio that Gilbert first heard about something called KenSap. That's a program to help Kenyans go to college in the United States, free.
And I had this advert in one of the local radio stations that there was a program called KenSap giving out scholarships to students who did well. And that's the first time that I even thought of going out to study.
Gilbert is gifted academically. On national exams, he scored in the top 1% of his peers. He was hoping to be accepted into a Kenyan university and had never dreamed of studying abroad until he met John Manners.
The ultimate aim is to give access to first-class post-secondary education to highly deserving kids from this region, which had, until recently, not been, the kids from this region had not had access to that kind of thing.
Manners is a retired journalist who spent part of his childhood, as well as 3 years in the Peace Corps, living in Kenya. But in 2004, He and Kenyan Olympic hero Mike Boyd decided they wanted to help young students get into American universities, so they organized the Kenya Scholar Athlete Project, or KenSap.
Generally, if a Kenyan were to make it to an elite university in the United States, that kid would come from an elite family in Kenya. The kid would be a child of a cabinet minister or a corporate executive or some big bwana. We are looking for kids outside that orbit, but who are nevertheless academically gifted.
Without KenSap's help, most bright students will be relegated to colleges in Kenya, a country where the literacy rate is relatively high, but the quality of higher education is, according to John Manners, lacking.
We're giving them opportunities that simply don't exist here. The state of Kenyan universities, I regret to say, is pretty woeful at this stage.
And he's been incredibly successful, placing nearly 100 Kenyans into some of America's toniest private colleges, including Harvard, Yale, and Princeton. Gilbert was accepted to Middlebury College in Vermont last year with a full ride. He will be a member of the KenSap graduating class of 2016, and he's featured on the organization's website.
When my name popped out as number 7 of the students who are selected, I just couldn't help being excited, just almost cried, because this was something I was really craving for, something I really wanted to get the opportunity.
Gilbert's mother was overjoyed as well.
Oh, we were so grateful as a family. In fact, we didn't believe until the day we really saw the letter from the Middlebury itself. So we were so excited. You know, it's something which is not common.
One reason it isn't all that common.
Good morning. I'm John Manners.
Is John Manners has developed a cutthroat admissions process for the KenSap program.
We're going to ask you some questions. We've read your application. Some of us know it very well, some of us don't know it all that well.
Only recent high school graduates who have scored in the 99th percentile of Kenya's national exam are allowed to apply.
I'm also wondering that you mentioned that you'd like to study Chinese and Spanish.
Then they're put through a rigorous series of interviews conducted by Manners and his staff.
What would be the hardest part about leaving your country and going to school in the U.S. if you got the chance?
Could you elaborate on what motivated you to perform well academically?
Okay, well, let's say when I was growing up, I think that
The students are peppered with questions about their family.
Your parents are both deceased?
yeah, they're both deceased.
Okay.
Their interests,
You mentioned that you want to be an astronaut. Can you talk more about that?
I think it's exciting to be on a space shuttle and being out there exploring space, the planets, perhaps the stars.
and their academic record.
You didn't give us the breakdown of scores. Can you give it to us?
Oh,
please?
I had math, I had 650.
I'm curious, did you do any preparation for your SAT?
No.
This is hard. This is hard. I mean, these kids are extremely worthy. And he's number 1 in the class, which makes him easy to sell. This is going to be tough, folks. We're going to get a lot of these. Have a seat. You're Cyril?
But the KenSap program isn't only about academics.
Have you been training?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. So we'll see you on Sunday. Good luck in the run. It doesn't matter if you don't do brilliantly. We just want to see you try hard. So let's have the girls stay in number order and move that way.
All of these applicants will also be judged on their running ability.
What we want to see mainly is a sincere effort. Why do we want to see this? Because running is part of the program. Why is running part of the program? Because if you are good at it, it helps you to get into college. We are hoping, because we come from this part of Kenya, that a few of you will be good enough to interest a college coach and therefore will have an advantage in being admitted to a very elite college, okay?
John Manners is also known as one of the world's leading writers on the Kenyan running phenomenon. And he believes that among all these whiz kids, there are likely to be some world-class runners.
Where is 59?
They just don't know it yet.
The density of talent is very high, and it is our expectation that if we were to pick a dozen kids, we'd have a few that could actually run at a level that would interest an American coach. And we're trying to see if anybody has that talent right off the bat, even without us training them. Okay, I think we're going to have to do 2 heats of girls. This is too many for 1 heat.
So the last step of the KenSap application process is a 1,500-meter race. That's about a mile. It's held just hours before the final selections are announced.
You come and you put 1 toe on this mark, okay?
Very few of these kids have ever trained for athletic competition. Manners is looking for raw, natural talent.
And then you go, and don't go too fast. We've discussed it 3 3/4 times around.
Mercy Kiprotich and Sharon Kipruto are both excellent students in Kenya, and they're among the 77 finalists for this year's KenSap class. The girls have been friends ever since they were 3 years old, but now they're in competition with each other because they both desperately want to continue their education in the United States. If selected for KenSap, a college education in the U.S. is almost guaranteed. Why? Because for the last 6 years running, every student accepted into KenSap has gotten into a top-ranked American school, and with a full ride.
Number 8 in the first heat.
So Mercy and Sharon are definitely feeling the pressure.
How much do you want this?
Really bad. It can't even be explained. We want it really bad because we've put so much hope into this thing, so much effort
and energy,
time, everything.
Like we put everything on hold in preparation for this. Yeah.
You may wonder why universities like Harvard and Yale would accept these Kenyan students over other deserving Americans, especially since they are unable to pay their way.
The colleges are admitting our kids because they're looking for diversity. They want to enhance the diversity of their undergraduate population, to enrich the experience of all the kids, et cetera, et cetera. If they get a kid who spends all his time in one corner of the library and the rest of it in his room, they're not getting their money's worth. Ladies of the first heat, I want to introduce you to our official timekeeper, Renato Canova, celebrated athletics coach from Italy. He's coached many, many, many top athletes from Kenya. He has graciously agreed to assist us.
The final decision of who will make it into this year's KenSap class is now only hours away.
First heat over here.
For the students, this race is their last chance to impress the KenSap staff.
What I'm going to ask you to do...
Sharon and Mercy have both worked hard, but the next few minutes of their lives will be critical.
Three laps.
Manners and his staff monitor the students' progress from the sidelines, shouting words of encouragement.
Keep going, but take it easy. Take it easy.
Sharon keeps a good, steady pace throughout the run, as friends and family cheer her on. Mercy sprints ahead of Sharon right at the finish line. But both girls have managed to finish.
You did great. Nice. Nice.
Sharon's mother runs to greet her and can't resist offering her daughter a little rehydration. She's overjoyed that Sharon has finished the race.
Nice, I'm so happy. I didn't believe that you can make such a runner. Congratulations, Sharon. Yeah.
Mercy's mother, too, is delighted that her daughter has done so well.
I feel so proud. She's really put in a lot of work. She's really tried, and nothing could make a mother more proud than this. So we only pray that everything goes well.
All candidates over to the bottom of the stairs. Can we start rounding them up? Yeah, everybody showed a sincere effort. Nobody has damaged their chances. Everybody has done exactly what we had hoped. Some of you have helped your chances. We're going to make the decision now. It'll take a few hours, so I hope you eat and try to relax, and we'll be making the announcement in a couple of hours.
4 long hours have passed. And finally, Olympic medalist and KenSap co-founder Mike Boyd announces the winners of the coveted slots.
Sharon Kipruto.
Sharon has made it. Mercy has not. It's a day of heartbreak for those students who haven't been chosen. But for Sharon Kipruto and her mother, their dreams are just beginning.
It was my wish that she goes to the US, and now it has actually become a reality.
And it's exciting to think about it, yeah. And it also comes with the sense of responsibility, because it means a lot of hard work has to be put in so that this entire thing could be successful, and to ensure that I make this program proud, that we don't regret having selected me, yeah.
When we come back, we'll catch up with the KenSap kids as they experience the culture shock of coming to America. After an 8,000-mile journey from Kenya, Boston is the starting point for this adventure of a lifetime. Gilbert Kipcareer and his fellow KenSap students are stepping out into a new world. Most of them have never traveled far from the villages and farms of rural Kenya where they were born. They've certainly never been on a plane before. But these young people have much in common. They're dedicated, they're incredibly bright, and they've never seen anything like America.
America is amazing. It's so developed. Everything is so into order. I mean, when we first got off from the airport and we were picked by a bus, and the bus was nice, and the train was nice, and everything is nice in America. The food, of course, is nice, yeah. Yeah, so I know I'm going to have a good time here.
Before they're directed to their respective schools, and to ease the culture shock, the students are shuttled off to a nearby boarding school for their first class. You might call it Welcome to America 101.
It's a funny thing about America. Americans do not like to smell each other.
KenSap co-founder John Manners wants the students to know everything there is to know about living with Americans.
What can I say? This is something that Americans feel quite strongly about. They don't want to smell each other. They don't want to smell you. They don't want you to smell them. This is something you should be alert to. There are things like deodorants that you can buy that can be helpful, but the best thing is shower as often as they do and wash your clothes often. Please and thank you. So easy, and we never do it in Kenya. How many of you know the actual Swahili word for please? How many of you know it? Yeah, I mean, we never say it in Kenya, right? But we're going to say it here. We're going to say it all the time. You're going to say it whether you think you should say it or not. You just say it.
Keep in mind, many of these young people have never lived in a home with running water, never been to a movie theater, never seen a salad, much less a salad bar. So there's a lot of material to go over in the 2-day orientation.
The whole idea of focusing on this strange culture that you're encountering here in America and learning to adapt. It's a tricky business.
Manners gives instructions on how to behave in the dining hall.
Be tidy, clean up after yourself, don't leave a mess behind you.
KenSap students will seek campus jobs and send money home to help their families.
You are going to be the richest person in your family by the end of your freshman year.
And Manners especially encourages his students to be open to new ideas.
We've talked about acquired tastes. Why would you want to acquire a taste for something? If you don't like it, you don't like it. Why bother? Well, it's worth bothering because it's an additional source of enjoyment, enlightenment. You're in another country. You should open yourselves up to life in this other country.
I think a guy is asking us to explain what Facebook is.
As part of the orientation, Manners brings together some older KenSap students who already have experience here, so they can offer a few tips to the newcomers.
You know, back home, gaining weight is a sign of doing very well. You know, you see someone with a very big belly, the thigh hanging off from the belly to the other side, and that's a sign of doing very well. You're very wealthy, you're eating well, you are healthy and all that kind of stuff. Here things are different. Something that you should never tell someone is, for instance, say, John, yeah, I can see you've gained a lot of weight. You're doing very well. You know, if you tell someone you're getting skinny, they'll be really happy.
After orientation, the KenSap kids will each find their way to their own separate schools. For Gilbert, that's prestigious Middlebury College in Vermont. We caught up with him about a month into his freshman year at practice with his school's cross-country team.
The first week I came to Middlebury, the first people I met was the cross-country team.
Okay, let's just go out the back door down the stairs.
I met the coach, and all through like the first couple of weeks, she was like the one who helped me in the transition. Like she would ask me how classes were going, and I felt like that was really a concerned person, you know, like someone I was close to, I could like talk to about anything. The people I met in the team became my friends almost immediately, so I could ask them a lot of questions about how to do things.
Like many of the KenSap kids, Gilbert never ran in high school, but typically about a quarter of KenSap students turn out to be varsity caliber runners, a much higher ratio than you would probably find anywhere else in the world, particularly among a group of studious bookworms. Gilbert told us he knows that it was probably his natural running ability that gave him the advantage in getting into Middlebury.
Every time I feel like quitting because practice is really getting hard at some point, I always remind myself how it has like contributed to where I am right now, like how it has significantly and totally changed my future and my life. So I account so much to running like every single day.
In case you're wondering, Gilbert's full ride to Middlebury is not dependent on athletics in any way. It is simply a financial aid package for academically gifted students who can't afford college on their own. And with tuition at private colleges often exceeding $50,000 a year, about 50 times the typical Kenyan's annual income, all KenSap students qualify. Gilbert's financial aid package even included a new laptop.
I should start by saying this is my first computer ever. Like, I've never owned a computer before. But when I came over to Middlebury College, I was given like a green card showing me that due to my financial need, they were going to provide me a computer. So I just went by the library with that green card, and they handed me over the computer. And it has really been so helpful, and I'm so grateful.
If you forget about the print eye, which is the thing...
We tagged along with Gilbert to his computer science class one day.
Let's do the second one. I feel like...
He likes the subject so much he decided to major in computer science and economics.
And if you say not A...
It's startling to think that a year ago, Gilbert hardly knew how to use a computer.
Here is that
So far, Gilbert seems to be thriving at Middlebury.
See, you too, man.
He's making friends easily and adjusting to the cultural differences here in America. For instance, he no longer has to go to a well to get water. And he's enjoying sampling all of the strange new foods in the campus dining hall, for the most part.
Lettuce? No, I'm not like getting used to it, but the vegetables are quite okay.
His dorm room is a lot bigger than the room he had back home.
Hey, Natalia. You're here. How's your day?
That's pretty good. How's yours?
Pretty good. Yeah.
And even though he misses his family and the farm, Gilbert told us that between cross-country practice and his academics, there's little time to be too distracted by homesickness.
Even though I'm getting used to it, I still have things that remind me that I'm far from home. I'm different from these other people. And it sort of in a way reminds me how lucky I am to have this chance and opportunity. Like, there are literally a lot of people who would want to get this chance, but I'm lucky to be one of them. Yeah.
Gilbert told us his first semester of college was the most productive time of his life. While holding down 2 jobs and attending cross-country practice every day, he earned all A's and B's. He plans to stay in America long enough to earn a PhD, but hopes eventually to return to Kenya to serve as a government minister. As for Sharon Kipruto, the young woman we introduced to you earlier in the program, she was admitted to the University of Chicago, where she plans to study environmental science and economics. She will begin classes in the fall of 2013. And in another bit of good news, her friend Mercy Kiprotich, who did not make the final cut in the KenSap program, was admitted early to Cornell University with the help of the Education and Social Empowerment Program, an organization similar in mission to KenSap. Mercy was the only student admitted early decision through that program this year.
Joy is our last born. Then we have Mom, Sarah. She's my mom. This is Faith. Faith Cheruta. She comes after me. She's my sister. We have Japhet. Japhet is our second last born. We have Michael.
Until recently, Gilbert's family had no electricity, and their meals are still cooked in a wood-burning oven.
This is the fireplace that you use wood to burn and, cook.
They also don't have indoor plumbing. Their drinking water comes from a nearby well. And even though this scene may look meager to our Western eyes, by Kenyan standards, Gilbert and his family would be considered And now a story of opportunity and what some make of it. Before the Olympics last summer, we traveled to Kenya on the east coast of Africa, where we met a group of gifted athletes who all come from one area and tribe. They're called the Kalenjin, and scientists are studying why members of this tribe have developed into some of the best long-distance runners in the world. But we also found another story in Kenya, one of remarkable achievement against unimaginable odds. This is a story about a special group of high school students who are also talented in the classroom and dreaming of coming to America. Middle class.
Okay, so we are going to my room. That is where I stay. It's so small, and I like it here. This is where I've always, when I have assignments to work on, I use this small table. This is what I use, my study table. Have a small chair, then we have clothes all over.
In his tiny bedroom, Gilbert has one possession he especially treasures.
I have a small radio.
It was on this radio that Gilbert first heard about something called KenSap. That's a program to help Kenyans go to college in the United States, free.
And I had this advert in one of the local radio stations that there was a program called KenSap giving out scholarships to students who did well. And that's the first time that I even thought of going out.
While the landscape is abundant, the people of Kenya are for the most part desperately poor. The average income here is less than $1,000 a year. Outside the major cities, the majority of Kenyans are farmers.
Okay, so I want to take you to the farm.
And it was on a farm that we met 21-year-old Gilbert Kipkorir.
I go to the dairy and milk every morning. Yeah. So this is, at least this is one source of the income to our family and, source of food. This milk is very important.
Gilbert lives on this small farm with his mother, his father, and many siblings.
This is Joy.
Kenya is truly a land of enchantment. There are fantastic vistas in every direction. Wildlife that has long made the country an explorer's paradise. But